Hi, everybody. Welcome in. I'm so happy you all got the new link. Christy Ho is helping me admit everyone into the session, and we'll be starting about 2:05. So welcome. And usually to start the meetings, everybody should be able to chat. I'll talk a little bit about when we get started about the meeting last week and kind of the precautions we put into place in Zoom this time. But everybody should be able to chat still. Email address. At gmail.com.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm handing you back.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
I think that's everything. I appreciate you allowing me to join today.
All right. No, we welcome you.
Correct.
We'll keep with the list.
Okay, everybody, it is 2:05. We're still actively letting everyone in, but let me first introduce myself. My name is Katie Sharp, and I am the Kitsap Housing and Homelessness Coalition Chair. Today, the meeting is actually being co-hosted by my marketing coordinator from Bremerton Housing Authority, Christy Ho. She's helping admit people in from the waiting room. So just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded by the Conduit and being streamed out on his platform. So thank you, Marwan. And to start off, I always like to make sure that I read the mission, vision, and values of the coalition for anybody new. Our vision is every person in our community has a safe, decent, stable, and appropriate home. The mission is that we provide leadership to end homelessness through planning, coordination among social service providers, advocacy, and education. And the coalition strives to carry out our mission with respect, commitment, compassion, integrity, and willingness to change. And we are at a conference right now. So we're actually just, everybody is kind of putting away. So you might hear some background noise, but let me know if I need to mute my audio for a second. The Kitsap Housing and Homelessness Coalition, also known as KHHC, is led by an executive team of volunteers, and Bridget Glasspool from Kitsap Mental Health Services is our vice chair. And we have support from Leif Wagner of Bremerton Housing Authority, Carl Borg from Kitsap County, Eric Harold from the Salvation Army, Katie Knutson from the HEN program, Madison Tuttle from Kitsap Homes of Compassion, and Allie Moyer from Housing Solutions Center. And so I just want to start out by addressing our meeting last week. I don't know how many of you were there, but like I said, I'm very grateful that 40 of you are here today. That's a great turnout for a new link. I know it's kind of frustrating not to have it on your calendar sometimes. That's why I made sure to send a reminder email today. So last month we had a Zoom bombing, which is somebody can join the meeting and share anything they want. And they decided to share hateful comments and inappropriate images. So we closed the meeting down right away. And I actually reopened. It was it was something I had never experienced before. So that's why we send out a separate email to everybody explaining what happened, as well as precautions you can take in Zoom to make sure that we take care of it and have some protections in place. So that's why we're having a waiting room and admitting people, making sure they're real people coming in, and also a new link. And we are only allowing a request for share, not automatic share and things like that. But if we have any concerns, let me know. You should be able to chat and do what you need to participate in the meeting. But we are going to learn as we go. But I want to make sure to protect us all from any interruptions and distractions like we had last time. I really am thankful for our presenters for coming back and presenting. So we have notes that Madison Tuttle took from the second recording that we had. So if you want to refer back to those, they are in our emails. And if you're not on our mailing list, please visit our website, KHHC.org, to sign up for our email list. And with that, any questions before we get started? See if I can check the chat. All right, well, if Jean is ready, I'm going to stop sharing and you have the floor.
Thank you, Katie. I'm
welcome.
going to share my screen. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jean Kim. I'm the transportation planner with Puget Sound Regional Councils. Can everybody hear me okay? Just want to check. Yeah, I see a few nods.
You sound great. Yes.
All right,
you.
thank you. Yeah, I'm a transportation planner with Puget Sound Regional Council. I'm joined here today by several other PSRC staff. So Erin, yeah, is Erin here?
Yeah, sorry, I was waving, but you couldn't see me.
All
Hi,
right,
everyone.
Erin will facilitate a discussion on transportation needs after my brief presentation. And Katie and Maria are also here to take notes today for us. So yeah, we are here to really talk about the transportation needs of your community. But for the first 10 minutes, I'll just provide you with an overview of the regional transportation plan and the coordinated mobility plan, which is part of the larger regional transportation plan. And as I mentioned, for the rest of the time, we would love to hear from you about your or your client's transportation needs today. So for this, I'll transition to Erin. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please let us know by maybe, I don't know, wave your hand like this on the video or just place them on the chat.
Yeah, and if you use the react button, the video will pop up, so it might be easier to tell. So if you use the react and the raise hand button, but yeah, we'll monitor the chat and let you know if there's questions too.
All right, even better. Thank you, Katie.
Yes.
Okay, so just who are we? We are the Puget Sound Regional Council, or PSRC in short. We are the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, to add another acronym to your vocab of the day. And we work on transportation, economic development, land use, and many more for 4 counties in central Puget Sound, as shown on this map. That includes Kitsap County, King, Pierce, and Snohomish County. So we are not representing county, but these 4 county region. We also work with 82 cities and towns, including within that county boundaries, and we are not the transit agency, but we work with 9 transit agencies, including Kitsap Transit, ferries, Sound Transit, and other bus agencies. So we are the convener and coordinator for the 4 county region. So we are the planning organization, and we work with many different key stakeholders and partners to set policy goals for the region. And we developed the Regional Transportation Plan, which identifies the long-term regional transportation needs based on the regional growth strategy called Vision 2050. And to develop this plan, we work closely with counties, cities, and transportation agencies and community members. Also, we designed the RTP to really address the multimodal needs. So here is the graphic illustrating that, including transit, bike and ped, freight, maintenance and preservation, technologies, aviation, ferries, and so on. So regional transportation plan incorporates all these different types of transportation modes, not only driving or roads, but also transit and other modes. We update the plan every 4 years to meet the state and federal requirements. And we currently are in the process of updating the regional transportation plan, which will be adopted in the May of next year. And as we develop our plan, we are using a variety of different tools to hear from the community. That includes an online engaged platform where you can explore the draft plans, maps, or share feedback anytime. We're also hosting in-person and virtual outreach meetings to connect with people directly, along with focus group interviews to really hear from specific communities and voices that are often underrepresented. And to reach even more people, we're using social media to share updates and promote events. And we've launched a public survey last month to gather even broader input on transportation needs and priorities. And we want this plan to reflect the whole region, and we want to hear from as many people as possible. So that's why we are here today, to really hear from you about your community needs. And coordinated mobility plan is one really important element of the regional transportation plan. This plan really addresses the mobility needs of people with special transportation needs. And the goal of the plan is to really provide the transportation services, provide information about the services that meet the needs of the people who have mobility challenges or accessibility needs because of their age, income, or ability. We also update this plan every 4 years to meet the federal and state requirements whenever we update the RTP, Regional Transportation Plan. And the plan includes really key information on population trends and existing transportation services available for those priority populations we address in the plan. The plan addresses the mobility needs and lays out prioritized strategies to address those needs. And the plan is really tied to our funding, assessment, and decisions for the region. So this is the plan that's been actually used by state and our region to identify the best projects that meets the community needs to run the transportation projects within the region. And so to ground us today, I'll give an overview of what transportation options we're talking about, and we want to hear from you today. So these are the really basic and more traditional options of transportation: walking and biking, pretty straightforward. Driving, of course. Transit and ferries offer reduced fare options like Orca Lift or Orca Youth Pass, RFP, Regional Reduced Fare Permit for eligible riders. And some transit agencies also offer subsidized passes for eligible riders. And for the RTP, we also want to broaden the concept of transportation to include other supportive modes like specialized transportation. So typically, whenever we think about transportation, we only think driving, transit, walking, and biking, but there are many more. There are ADA paratransit provided by transit agencies, Medicaid, or non-emergency medical transportation, demand response shuttles run by many different community transportation providers, and mobility management programs, including call centers or information referral services that provide more information and more customized and personalized services to meet the needs of the populations with limited mobility and accessibility. And just to provide a little more information, over 40% of the regional population falls into at least one of the priority population categories of youth, older adults, people with disabilities, people with low incomes, and people with limited English proficiency, or LEP. And among these groups, older adults, people with disabilities, and LEP populations are growing at a faster rate than the general population. And in our 4-county region, low-income individuals make up about 20% of the total population. And our 2023 household travel survey indicates that the people with lower incomes tend to rely more on public transit, walking and biking, and they also drive alone less often. So because owning and keeping up a car is very expensive in our region, but even though they depend on more of these transit or walking and biking, they often face barriers like not having enough transit service nearby, long wait times, or cost of fares not available at time when they're needed. And these challenges can make it really hard and harder to get to jobs, schools, or other important places, which only adds to existing economic gaps. So I just really want to highlight that there is a need to provide better transportation options for low-income households within the region. And another key highlight of the demographic trend is that older adults grew by nearly 20% in the same period. And as population ages, the number of individuals living with disabilities also increase. So nearly half of those aged 75 and older have a disability. And for those over 85 years old, more than 70% of them have at least one disability that could be a barrier to use public transportation system. And this aging trend will continue into the future. So in the next 25 years, we are expecting a really big growth in older adults. And currently 15% of the population is aged over 65. But by 2050, so within only, 25 years, the number is expected to rise to 22%. So by 2050, 1 out of every 5 people in the region will be 65 or older. So I feel like I talked a lot and threw out information, too much information maybe in the afternoon of Wednesday, but I'll pause here for any questions. I see a few comments in the chat. Let's see. So Anna asked a question. Demand response shuttles is the same as dial-a-ride and Kitsap Transit's language. Yeah, thank you for the question, Anna. Demand response shuttles, they are referred to, some of the community smaller shuttles, vans type of the shuttles operated by the nonprofit or human service agencies in our region. Dial-a-ride, I think that's the Kitsap Transit brand of ADA paratransit. Is that correct? No.
No.
Anna, do you want to maybe unmute and clarify?
Thanks. I've been on the Kitsap Transit board for over 3 years, so I know a little about them. But dial-a-ride is basically, it's something they have in Bainbridge and I believe Paulsbo, and I'm not sure where else. And it serves 2 functions. One is to get people out of their cars. Mm-hmm. We have access transit here at Kitsap Transit for people who are elderly or disabled or both. And that's they're extremely handicapped. They're adapted to be easy to get on and off of. But dial-a-ride is something that in Bremerton exists only on Sundays and for Werner Road. And this is something that I'd really like to ask you about, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So the received wisdom at Kitsap Transit is that Dial-A-Ride, one of its functions is to establish where routed buses might go, which seems really desirable because Bremerton is a low-income community with many disabled, elderly, and I forget what your acronym was, but people who have limited English.
Mhm.
So is that also the Puget Sound Research Council's view of one function of demand response shuttles?
Yeah, so demand response shuttles, yes, we view them as supportive modes for transit. Buses or light rails are not available for the areas that are not available and not really supported by those bus or transit, other
Yeah,
transit modes.
but also to identify where a routed bus might be needed.
Right. So I feel like oftentimes the transit agencies first conduct their pilot type of programs, like testing out with vans, smaller vehicles, shuttles, to see if there is a demand or need in the community. And then if they see much demand or rise in ridership, or if that meets their funding or resources, I feel like they will launch the bus routes. But I think there are some communities that are not applicable to really add another bus route because of financial limit or I'm not the transit agency person, so I can't talk much more about their process. But there are some areas not applicable to add another bus route. But we are hearing more from the transit agencies that they are moving towards adding more smaller vehicle like micro transit. For example, King County Metro has the Metro Flex programs or community transit up in Snohomish County. They have the van program, on-demand van program called the ZIP Alderwood or ZIP shuttles. I think that's more of the trend that transit agencies are taking. And I'm glad that Kitsap Transit has many different shuttles or van programs, like you said, demand response, Dial-A-Ride, to see which type of programs really meet the community's need in Kitsap County. Erin, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that was a good summary. And there were also, or sorry, Anna, did that answer your question? I didn't want to move on.
I have a deep-seated passion for expanding public transportation so that it would be a real alternative to driving in Kitsap County, especially as the Kitsap County and the PSRC plans call for more density within Bremerton. But I'm not sure that this is the right venue for me to go on and on about it. So I'm going to do something that will astound you all and say thank you and stop talking. Appreciate if you could put anything in the chat about someone at PSRC I could talk to more about this. I'd really appreciate it.
Sure. We also have a mobility on-demand work program that talks about transit agencies, micro transit or on-demand type of programs. So yeah, more to discuss and talk about. And I see many other comments or feedback in the chat.
Yeah, I think there's been some questions about about Kitsap Transit and what the expansion plans are, what changes are coming, and I think a few maybe kind of unmet needs were identified here. There was a comment about clients in the Gorst area and Port Orchard that don't have access. And then there's also a question I think that just popped up about transportation services for disabled veterans. So I've put in the chat the link for Kitsap Transit's long-range plan. I do think that, again, we're not from Kitsap Transit, but what I've been hearing from them is really the focus on getting back to pre-pandemic service levels. And then I know they've been slowly trying to add Sunday service to a couple routes. But yeah, I think some new routes, really big changes in frequency are probably still at least a few years out, I would say. But yeah, happy to chat more about Kitsap Transit issues or connect folks with people at Kitsap Transit. But we do really appreciate this feedback, and we need to know where those unmet needs are. So
Yeah, so we are currently working with transit agencies. They're sharing their future transit networks and plans for expansion and adding newer type of transportation projects or routes by 2050. So the next 2026 regional transportation plan will include that information. So more to come, and we are more than happy to share your feedback and questions with Kitsap Transit, and then follow up with Katie with more details on that.
Yes, and I could share that out to Jean and whatever you want to share. I know originally you had emailed us because you know, maybe want an opportunity to share and stuff, and this is always a good start, but we always have our newsletter, and that's for all agencies here, that we can use our 500-person mailing list and really get some information out.
Okay, that sounds great. And Bernice also asked, are there any plans for regular transportation service for disabled veterans to transport to American Lake or Seattle VA hospitals? That's a great question. We have one Snohomish County transportation provider that operate the veteran volunteer transportation service to dedicated to serve the veteran riders, to transport them to Seattle VA hospitals or other essential locations. I am not sure about if there is any program in Kitsap County to do that. And within our 4-county region, there are 3 county mobility managers. So except Kitsap County, Snohomish, Pierce, and King County have dedicated mobility managers who convene all these different transportation providers and transit agencies and the users to share this information. We don't have that in Kitsap County, but we know that there are many different community-based organizations in Kitsap really want to talk about the transportation needs, and there's needs in county. So that's something I just want to share with many different groups, that there's a need maybe to share the transportation information at some point. But yeah, I think we should move along. I just
you haven't engaged. It's okay. Like, that's why we make our meetings so for as well. I mean, we want to give the opportunity, but also we have a really engaged group here. So thank you so much for bringing this topic. And I'm, you know, we could bring more transportation topics too. So it sounds like a really good thing to start bringing more of. So appreciate that.
Yeah, and one day maybe we'll see Mobility Coalition in Kitsap County, so we can coordinate with other county coalitions for more seamless transportation. But Erin, I think this portion is yours, and so yeah, we'll transition to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jean. And yeah, thank you everybody for the comments, and we'll copy what's in the chat here too and can follow up. But somewhat in the same vein of what we've been discussing, so we are working on identifying these key mobility needs for the current plan, for the plan that we're working on right now that will be adopted in 2026. But we wanted to start by kind of looking at the plan we adopted in 2022. Our current plan has these 7 identified key mobility needs. And so we've been using this as kind of a starting point to see if there are any of these that really resonate with you, where you're feeling like, yes, that is still a major mobility need. Or if there are some where you're like, I don't know that that's as much of an issue anymore. Maybe we've made progress on it. So just for accessibility, I am going to read through these and give you a minute to think on them. So based on the feedback that we did 4 years ago, we heard that shorter trips with fewer transfers was a huge need. That's a big deterrent to using transit, especially for choice riders, but also for folks that rely on this service. Something like a medical appointment can become an all-day endeavor depending on where you're traveling from. So ways to, again, really provide more service and more direct trips to key destinations. Similarly, more services at times and places that people need them. A big thing we hear, especially for specialized transportation, is not having that sort of all-day service. Maybe there's only a couple trips that happen in the course of a day, or you need to plan really far in advance to request a ride. Things like that would kind of fall in this bucket. The next one being easy to find information on services as well as language support for those LEP populations, limited English proficiency that Jean mentioned. And I think some of the questions in the chat have kind of maybe gotten at this too, like a better understanding of access paratransit and how to apply for it and eligibility. I think that these systems can be kind of complicated, and that sometimes is a barrier to people accessing services that could be really helping them. As well as better access to healthcare and essential services. So that gets back to kind of those key destinations. I think it sounded like there were a couple examples in the chat, maybe of VA facilities. But yeah, we're definitely open to hearing if there are essential services and locations that aren't really served by transit now, that sort of your constituencies would need to get to and can't. And then affordable options for low-income families. I think Jean mentioned, there are several fair media, and I think the region has worked on making transit as affordable as possible. But definitely want to hear more if that's a barrier. Then well-connected ADA accessible infrastructure. We hear about that a lot, not just at maybe a bus stop, but the sidewalks, the infrastructure to even get to that stop, being a challenge for some folks, especially for fixed route transportation. And then finally, better regional coordination to meet growing needs. We hear a lot about people needing to travel in between or across county lines to get to services that they use. And we really do function as a region here, which is a big reason PSRC exists. But we do have this sort of balkanized system of different transit providers. So sometimes that does create additional transfers or just sort of an additional confusion around trying to get from one place to another, especially if you're traveling a long distance. So Jean, I think if you click next, it'll kind of ask our question. Great. I skipped it last time, so I wanted to remember this time. Which is, are there any of these that are really resonating with you, kind of that you want to either verbally or in the chat kind of put a +1 next to, or expand upon with more feedback?
And again, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat. I think we're pretty flexible here, right, Erin?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm seeing in the chat, Andrea said more services at times and places people need them, resonates, as well as Kim said, all of them. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of needs out there. So, but yeah, that's good to hear that these all still sound like priorities. I can give it another couple moments in case anyone is kind of rereading these or mulling over them. But we also have some broader questions on the next slide that we can ask as well. So I don't want to linger too long.
These bullet points are the current plan, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I think we obviously this is gonna be shaped based on the feedback we get from all of you, but if I had to guess, I think a lot of these will show up again in this plan, because what we've been hearing so far is a lot of these are still needs. But then, later in this process, we'll be also kind of prioritizing them. So I think maybe that might change from the last plan, depending on the feedback we get. And I see Anna has her hand up and some more chats coming in. So maybe Anna, if you want to go ahead.
Thanks. So what I keep hearing from constituents is they want more services at times and places people need them. Like they want to be able to do a grocery run. They want to be able to make a doctor's appointment and then just regular errands, hook up with friends, go for a walk. And then in the evening, especially like there's workers, all the fast food up and down Wheaton Way and Kitsap Way. Well, people work in them. And right now they're dependent on cars to get them to and from work. The main thing for us is almost all our routed buses are set up for commuters and they run at hourly intervals. from stops that have no shelter. Thanks.
Thanks, Anna. Sorry, I was typing while you were talking because that was, I think you made several good points there. Yeah, everywhere from facilities to frequency to destinations, a lot of issues there. Jean, do you want to go to the next slide? Maybe we could ask some of these kind of broader questions. And I am seeing several things come up in the chat, sort of, yeah, similar to what Anna was saying, but a lot about more service being needed, and access to healthcare. I also think I saw that pop up, but like I said, I promise we will look at these after the meeting. So if I didn't mention your comment out loud, we'll still have it. Kim has her hand raised.
Thank you. And I probably am just a few steps behind. Could I get a better understanding of who PSRC is looking to fund new transportation? Who's responsible? My answers to these questions will very much depend on who's paying and for what purpose. For example, I see that Marwan's on the call from G2G2, which is a godsend to those of us in Kitsap. Are we looking for a plan that could fund a nonprofit company? Who would pay? So just some background about who the strategic plan is looking to influence would be terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. I will take my best effort, and then maybe Jean, if I missed something and you want to chime in. But yeah, so we work with all of the jurisdictions and transit agencies that already exist in the region. Part of what we do in this plan is we basically ask them in a financially constrained environment, which we're really defining as your current revenues, and then maybe new revenues that you think are reasonably expected. I know this is very jargony, but what services do you think you can provide? What do you think you can accomplish by 2050 to maintain, grow the service that you have now? So then we're also trying to collect information from the nonprofit providers. So we're not necessarily prescribing all the providers need to do these things, but we're trying to understand what is and isn't feasible by 2050 with the money that we have now, and then figure out to get where we want to go by 2050, what is that gap between things that we feel confident can be funded, and if there's things we've identified as some needs that can't be addressed, what is that gap? And then we work with our board to try to identify what would be potential new revenues. So in the past, we've talked about the road usage charge being a strategy for filling those gaps. But those conversations haven't really happened yet. We're still really trying to calculate what the gap is exactly. So I don't know if that answered your question, Kim or Jean.
Super helpful. This is
Okay.
long-term strategic planning. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
And then just to add a little more information on that, we use the regional transportation plan and the coordinated mobility plan, which focuses on the priority population's transportation needs to assess the project applications to improve the sidewalks or fund any transit routes throughout the region. So the strategies and the priorities identified in the plan, we want to make sure that the projects funded align with the original strategies in the plan.
Great. So I think, again, I think we've already been having a conversation sort of in this vein, but we did just want to formally kind of give a platform that what do you perceive are the biggest challenges? And it could just be thinking from a user perspective that maybe addresses all three of these categories, or maybe you have feedback that specifically is about public transit, like we've been talking about Kitsap Transit Service, or specialized, or the walking, biking, and rolling. So I know we asked you to kind of maybe give some feedback on the list that we already have, but I guess, yeah, if you could say one thing that is the biggest challenge, maybe what would it be in terms of transportation and the populations you work with accessing services and places they need to go?
Anna's hand's been up, so Anna, feel free to unmute. and share your feedback.
I'm sorry. Somebody wants me to talk? Carry
Yeah,
on.
your hand's been up, Anna, so we were just making sure.
What was the question?
Oh, well, your hand was up, so we thought you wanted to
Oh, I
share
am
some
so
more.
sorry. Oh, no, totally my problem. I beg your
But we
pardon.
see you have a lot of input in the chat. It sounds like Jean and Aaron are collecting that. And if you need to save that
Happy to
chat,
just-
yeah,
Happy to just be in the chat. Sorry about having my hand up.
Stephanie does have her hand. Thank you, Anna.
Hi, Katie. It's been a while.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie.
I am just going to throw out there that some of these things that you are discussing, we already do for different agencies. And so if you have any questions about it, you can contact, Marwan Cameron, who's in this and is obviously busy, or myself. Okay.
Yeah, so Stephanie, you think you've already kind of gathered some input on what those challenges or the priorities would be?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're also tackling some of them. So we work with a lot of organizations that it's been brought up that need shorter routes for people that are going to doctor's appointments or things. And we currently have a contract with Virginia Mason Franciscan Health Cancer Center in Silverdale. And part of the reason that came about is because their clients were using paratransit or access. But when you have prostate cancer and you need to go to the bathroom and you're stuck on a bus, it doesn't happen. Or we have had 2 clients that used them that literally ran out of oxygen on the bus because they were so late picking them up. So they need to have that. And so that's what we specialize in. And somebody was asking about American Lake, and we have transported to American Lake. We've had the VA, Bremerton Municipal Court, and 2 other organizations that have called us for their clients that had to go there. So like I said, a lot of these, if you have a client that needs a specific kind of transportation, always give us a call and we'll see what we can do.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Absolutely.
And Stephanie, sorry, this is our first time with your group. Would you mind sharing your organization name?
No, our organization is Gather Together, Grow Together. I call it G2 for short because it is a mouthful. And yeah, we do a lot of things, but transportation is a huge priority for us.
That's great. As I mentioned, we rely on our existing contact list to gather information. So if you're interested in be added to our mailing list, we have a bi-monthly committee meeting where we invite all providers and the users of the specialized transportation system to discuss regional topics like mobility needs or any new programs. I'm more than happy to share that information, but at the same time, we also have the regional inventory of all these different types of programs. And we usually work with mobility managers of the mobility coalitions in 3 counties of the region. But Kitsap County, since we don't have a dedicated mobility manager, we just rely on the mailing list or Google search, as we all do. So yeah, if you have any resources or interested in getting on our mailing list.
Marwan just put all my contact information in the chat. So I'm definitely wanting to do that. We also are doing what we call a transportation forum every other month here in Kitsap County to try to discuss these same things.
That's good to know. That's great. We'll reach out.
All right. Thank you.
So I've noticed a couple other things come through in the chat. and some things about the lack of covered bus stops or unsafe areas for where the bus stops are located, the stop spacing and the challenges if you have a mobility device of that kind of, we talk about first mile, last mile. I feel like a whole last mile with a mobility device is definitely too long. So, but the last bit between maybe your destination and where the bus actually stops, and then again, some really good feedback here. A big trend I feel like I'm hearing from the feedback is access to healthcare destinations and not just getting there, but thinking about the mode of how you're getting there. Is it a short direct trip? And I think also what came up about bathrooms, we heard that in a couple other of these meetings as well. Folks saying, especially if I have to transfer between multiple providers, like I have a kidney issue, I need access to bathrooms, every hour. And if I have with all these transfers, it's taking me 2 hours on the bus to get somewhere, I can't make it. So I think that's definitely coming out as a need that maybe doesn't get talked about very much. But I'll maybe pause and see just because I think we do have a couple more wrap-up slides. But before I pass it back to Jean, does anyone else have anything they want to add? This was super helpful, and it sounds like this can be an ongoing conversation. Okay. Jean, do you want to I'm going to export the chat right now to make sure we've captured everything, but I'll let Jean wrap it up.
Sure, and we will be sure to share the slides with Katie after the meeting, so you'll have access to these slides. Currently, as we mentioned, we are working on the current system report and inventory of all these different types of programs available in our 4-county region. And soon this summer, we will work with our data team to forecast and our regional transit agencies to see what their plans are to expand or improve their service by 2050. And then we will draft a plan, and the plan will be adopted by May of next year. And we will continue to reach out and share information with the organizations like yours. So if you're interested in hearing back from us about the key transportation needs we are hearing from other organizations, or want to co-develop the strategies to improve the specialized transportation or just general transportation programs, please let us know. We will also conduct some regional public meetings, so at least once in each county this summer. And whenever we have more details about those regional meetings or focus group interviews, we will reach out to Katie and share information with her. So I just want to thank everyone again. We are currently in the phase 1 of our targeted outreach to hear transportation needs of your communities. And later this year, we will work with the communities to build the strategies to improve the needs we heard from the communities. And here's our contact information. I'll also drop it in the chat. So if you have any other resources, or if you want to share additional feedback after the meeting, please share with us. I see one physical hand there. Ellie, did you have any? Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, lots of different things going on. All right. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, we will be around. But thank you for having us today.
Thank you, Jean and Aaron. And I'm glad, I'm glad everybody can join and participate. Yeah, we are a resource for you as well. So anything you want to share, just like you said, please send it over and we'll send it in our newsletter. I'll show everybody remind everybody where to sign up for the newsletter later in this meeting, but it sounds like a good opportunity to kind of talk to each other.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And our next presenter is Kim and Summer.
Great. Hey, thanks everybody. It's an honor to be here for your meeting. I'm here with Recovery Cafe Coordinator Summer Anderson. We both work for the City of Poulsbo Department of Housing, Health, and Human Services. I'm going to flash up some slides and talk for 5 minutes about something we started here in Poulsbo about a year and a half ago called the Recovery Resource Center. I'm then going to turn things over to Summer to talk about something that she's been building for many, many years that has finally come to fruition in the last several months. A recovery center cafe that has recently been accepted into the Recovery Cafe network, but I don't want to steal her thunder. She will talk about it soon. So I will share my screen and do a few slides.
And we can see yeah, there you go. We got it.
Yay! It always takes me a minute. Thank you.
Yeah, it's easier to do it in when you're sharing the screen, but it's like I wish I could do it before I shared the screen. Yeah.
You know, you'd think we'd all be experts on this by now, but yet. So again, I'm Kim Hendrickson. I'll be joined by Summer Anderson. We both work for the city of Poulsbo. I'm the director of Housing, Health, and Human Services. For those of you that aren't familiar with what we're doing here in the city of Poulsbo, we call this H3. This department considers matters related to the health and well-being of Poulsbo residents with a strong emphasis on our more vulnerable populations. Areas that we focus on in H3 are affordable, emergency, and supportive housing, topics of great interest to this group. Low barrier behavioral health services, more about that in a second. Public health and equitable access to health services, and services for individuals with low and limited income across age groups. I really liked the emphasis in the last presentation about our growing senior population. We're already there in Poulsbo, something like 25% of our, sorry, Mayor Erickson is at my door. Mayor, we're talking to the county's homeless human services group. That's the mayor showing off. You have to come in closer for them to see it. I don't think Zoom will do it. Mayor is holding up a poster for our Nordic Cottages project, which, as some of you might know, are 8 units of housing for very low income seniors here in Poulsbo. The banner looks great, Mayor. Thank you. You never know what's going to happen here at H3. Oh, it's for me. Good. Yeah, it's here. Thank you. We focus a lot on seniors, and as I was just mentioning, our numbers are already higher than the county average. Something like 25% of our population are older adults, and that number is projected to increase. Many of them on fixed incomes, many of them struggling to make ends meet. We simply can't do enough, especially for housing needs of that population. We have a really strong emphasis in H3 on recovery services. We have been working to figure out how we can use our police department, our fire department, our courts, city staff, public works, to promote recovery for mental health and for substance use issues since this department was founded back in 2021. I'll be talking in a second about our Recovery Resource Center that opened up in 2023. We started a police navigator program looking to connect people to services. That was probably back in 2018. Worked to start a fire cares program with Poulsbo Fire 2021. We partner with 2 different agencies to run recovery residences. This is new and something that we're really proud of. There's a little house in a city park called Nelson Park called the Nelson House. It was operated for several years by Coffee Oasis, which was great. Starting about a year ago, it was operated by Gambit Recovery, that's currently operating it as a recovery residence for men. Currently 4 residents, again, of the city-owned house on city property that are there for supportive recovery efforts, connecting to employment, connecting to support groups, learning responsibility, helping each other. We also work with Kitsap Homes of Compassion. They run a recovery residence for women and women with children in Kingston. I know we've got some partners in that project on the call today. This connection between the city and nonprofits that are running recovery residences has been really successful, and I hope there's more of that to come. We partnered with the Suquamish tribe starting this year to offer more SUD, substance use disorder services at our recovery center starting in 2025. That partnership is so exciting and has so much potential. Summer will talk about our new cafe that just opened in February. I want to say before we continue that for us in Poulsbo, recovery is an incredibly broad and inclusive concept. We define recovery as a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. We have a policy at the Recovery Center, and I know in the cafe, to really just be grateful for people coming through the door that are interested in recovery, whatever that might look like for them personally. We recognize that recovery can be very individualistic. The reason Poulsbo, and specifically Housing, Health, and Services, focuses on recovery definitely is complicated. There's lots of reasons why, but because I'm talking to a group that's very interested in housing and homelessness, I just want to stress the fact that we are very aware in Poulsbo that there's been a countywide increase in unsheltered homelessness. It's significant, and at the point in time counts, when people are asked to explain factors that are resulting in their homelessness, the number one reported factor that we're getting in the recent point in time count are people talking about their chronic health and mental health conditions. Over half of folks interviewed at the recent point of time count struggling with unsheltered homelessness talk about chronic substance use. So we are of the firm belief that, housing people is absolutely critical, but we also need to address other needs as well. There's not a one way to do effective housing. We think having recovery as a part of a housing strategy is absolutely critical. We also have had some really big changes at Poulsbo Municipal Court in the past year or so. Maybe some of you have been following the flipping, flopping of the state legislature about drug crimes and the decriminalization of drugs and the recriminalization of drugs. Bottom line for us here in Poulsbo is that the police in Poulsbo are now arresting for drug-related offenses. The numbers are significant. About a third of our docket at Poulsbo Municipal Court are drug-related crimes. Here at the city, we realize that just charging people, cycling them through jail, expecting change with that sort of criminal justice approach is not very productive. We need to do more to be using that opportunity point of somebody facing consequences for their action to open the door to recovery services, to open the door for making help available for those that wish to pursue it. So because we are charging more and more drug crimes at the Poulsbo Municipal Court, we feel like it's our obligation to make sure there are recovery services available for those that are interested in pursuing them. We're very proud that as a tiny city, we're 13,000, that we're able to do things like run outreach programs, run a recovery center, now run a cafe. I think the role of cities is going to become even more important as, I hate to say these words, as Medicaid funding changes and perhaps is cut, and our already overstrained, overburdened, inefficient system for helping people with chronic health conditions, including substance use disorders, becomes even more difficult to access and navigate. So again, I think the city of Poulsbo has stepped up in a big way to understand their role in treating health conditions, including recovery. And I think our responsibility is going to become even more pressing as federal changes start to hit local governments and local communities. Okay, what is the Recovery Resource Center? First, where we are. Everyone gets lost that finds us for the first time. We're at Upper Poulsbo Village. If you ever want to come visit us, plug in Sunrise Dental or Kitsap Martial Arts into your GPS. Our address is 19351 8th Avenue Northeast. It's a building called Upper Poulsbo Village. It essentially is a pretty little strip mall, and we have two large suites at the upper end of this strip mall. One of them is the Recovery Resource Center. That's the first part of our current project that we opened about a year and a half ago. The purpose of the Recovery Resource Center, simply have a walk-in, no-cost, friendly place where people interested in recovery can come and get assistance. That's it. Make the barriers as limited as possible, create a service hub where people can get their needs met, whether that's talking to a peer, learning about buprenorphine, learning about mental health services, having access to a mental health counselor, figuring out how to navigate the medical system to connect with a primary care provider, having housing navigation. We have many providers that work in the center and an unbelievable team of staff at the center that knows how to navigate difficult systems. Between those direct partnerships at the center, peer support, and folks that just know how to navigate when folks walk in the center, again, we're able to be a hub for anybody that's interested in recovery efforts, or even more broadly, just connecting up with with services in Kitsap County related to their health and well-being. What it's like to walk through the door. Okay, this is very important for us. The mood that we set at the center is critical to who we are as a center. We've made a beautiful space that does not look like a clinical office, again, where anybody, regardless of, their age, over 18, what kind of help they're seeking, financial status. It's a place where people feel welcome. Comfortable chairs, colorful walls, cup of coffee, friendly staff. We're trying to create a space where people can come in and be a part of something and get rid of the stupid and counterproductive stigma about looking for help with behavioral health issues. I won't bore you all with lots of statistics, but just, so you can get a general sense of what we're doing at the center. We helped about 200 people last year. In the first few months of 2025, we're up to well over 150 already, so our numbers continue to grow. We have a membership model, so it's not a one and done. People that come to the center are invited to become members, access support groups, access counseling, access peer support. Summer will talk in a minute, access our cafe. We're encouraging a place of belonging where people are coming back, and the numbers show it. People are coming in multiple times to use our services. The average number of visits to our center last year was over 9. If these statistics are of interest, I'm happy to share them with the group. And interestingly enough, the main reasons that people come into the center last year, about a quarter are coming in because they're just looking for somebody to talk to. 21%, give or take, are looking for somebody to help them with a substance use disorder evaluation. This is usually a part of court requirements that are looking for the center to help them to fill. 16% or so looking to get general information about services in Kitsap County. Smaller percent, 13%, looking to get information about SUD services. I mentioned buprenorphine briefly in my earlier comments. Our partnership with the Suquamish tribe will give us the ability, I hope this summer, to have a nurse at the center that's able to prescribe for buprenorphine. So people that are coming in with opioid use disorders that are looking for medication and counseling to help them control their opioid use. Again, have a safe, non-judgmental, easy to access place to go for those services. So I will stop there, turn it over to Summer to talk about Recovery Cafe, and hang out at the end if you have any questions about the Recovery Center. So Summer, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Kim. I like that slide deck. I haven't seen it yet. I'm Summer. I'm the Recovery Cafe coordinator here at the RRC. I have been a longtime fan of the Recovery Cafe model. I came across it years ago. I had already found myself in recovery, but just really was impressed with the all-encompassing nature of it, the food, the doing activities together. And so I've been on a mission to bring one to Kitsap County, and it's situated nicely within the RRC here. We opened in February for the cafe hours. So it's been about 2 months. We started with kind of just a slow launch.
Summer, did you unshare your screen? Just making sure the screen just unshared.
Summer's not going to talk without slides, so I unshared. So we
okay, perfect. I just want to make sure that that was on purpose because it was.
Thank you for checking.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we opened mid-February with cafe hours, kind of with the, we also submitted an application to the Recovery Cafe Network in anticipation of being fully accepted, which we just found out last week we are. But lunches started in February. We were serving about, 10 people a day. We're pushing the low 20s now. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, I serve lunch from 11 to, the cafe's open till about 3 o'clock. We have several support groups happening in this space outside of cafe hours, about a dozen in total. We offer SMART recovery meetings, NA meetings, SMART for friends and family. We offer yoga. We have a drumming circle. We have some sound healing. So we're just trying to be a place that offers, a different flavor of recovery for people can just pick their flavor, what works for them, what do they want to get plugged into. We are also situated right next door to the Friends of Bill Hall, which is the largest NA hall here in North Kitsap. So we have just a real bustling recovery community. right next door. A couple of things that are really unique about the Recovery Cafe is it once we are once we're trained, we're going to go for training in the beginning of May, and then we'll have ongoing trainings through October. But we're going to start incorporating our recovery circles. So everybody that's a member of the cafe is required to attend a once weekly recovery circle, and then they get all the benefits, the lunches, the classes, and all that stuff. So we're working on that. We also really believe in raising up member leaders. So you know, we have one gentleman likes to write poetry, and we're encouraging him to, you know, start a poetry group or start a writing group. We're trying to encourage other members of the community to bring in things that they're passionate about, whether that be a knitting circle or any type of crafting. And yeah, we're just trying to be a place that people can continue in their recovery for as long as they feel necessary. I think services are great, but people aren't designed to live in treatment forever or live in services forever. And we need communities in which to live out our recovery. So trying to think if
Summer, I'm just thinking, since so many on this call are interested in housing, you know, because you've got experience both on our recovery resource center side and the cafe side, can you just talk a little bit about like how we work with Kitsap Homes of Compassion to get folks housed that come into the center?
Yeah, so we do have people that work with Homes of Compassion. My experience with housing is that it's not an immediate fix. And so while somebody might be working on a housing application or on a wait list, or, you know, we have some members that are waiting, you know, HEN funding or awaiting Social Security and those types of things. The cafe is a really nice complement for that because it is a safe space to be, a drug and alcohol-free space while people are going through those steps. We do have the people from Homes of Compassion in office next door. So our members are able to just, you know, pop back and forth, check on their housing applications, meet with people, and then still be in the cafe for lunches and community. Is there any other questions or any other points I
So there
missed?
is a question from Anna. Anna, do you want to just ask your question?
Sure. I should have introduced myself before. I'm Anna Mockler. I sit on the Bremerton City Council representing District 6. So this is a great program. As you all know, Bremerton, not so much with the money. So I was wondering, what's the 3H department budget and how much does it cost to rent, operate, and staff the recovery center and cafe? If you've only been open since February, you obviously don't have an annual, and then what are the funding sources? So, you know, a three-part question.
Yeah, so just to clarify, council member, we've actually been open for about 1.5 years in the recovery center. The cafe just opened in February, so you know, we're getting there. When H3 started, it was tiny. It was me. So, you know, it was just the salary of one person. The reason the department was able to grow and the reason we were able to open up a recovery center and frankly run all the programs we're able to run is that I'm very dedicated to grant writing. And so, you know, if you have one person in place that's willing to do the work and the research and, you know, the pain and suffering of writing grants, that one person can then, you know, ideally find grants to start small programs and then build partnerships to get support for things that are starting to grow. I mentioned our partnership with the Suquamish tribe, like that is so essential to the long-term success of the center. That partnership does not cost the city of Poulsbo anything. But it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't gotten the grants to open up the recovery center to begin with. So, you know, in terms of like exact dollar amounts, I mean, I think at the moment, our total budget to run the recovery center is probably in the ballpark of $600,000, but it could have been it was much smaller to begin. As we diversify our funding sources and more people are coming in because they see it as a benefit to their agencies, some of those costs may be reduced. But if you're just looking for a ballpark figure, you know, $600,000 is not a bad place to start. I will say just on the topic of Bremerton, I'm seeing, you know, more and more focus on CARES teams in Kitsap County. And I know Bremerton is thinking about maybe starting a fire CARES team that would coordinate them with other CARES teams that are popping up in the county. If and when Bremerton becomes a part of that network, we get referrals from fire departments, police departments. Like our connection with first responder agencies has turned out to be really important as well.
May I ask a real quick follow-up question?
Sure.
So one of the things you mentioned early in this really good presentation was that your primary focus is residents of Paulsbo. So I was wondering how you determine that and what's the size of roughly of the population you work with. I've done point in time counts for years and everybody knows they're notoriously unreliable.
For sure. And just in case I misspoke, we welcome anybody in the center. There is no requirement that you live in Paulsbo, because much of it is city funded. We certainly have a high interest in serving people that come to Paulsbo Court, intersect with Paulsbo law enforcement, are on the streets in Paulsbo. You know, looking to help folks that are here in Paulsbo is a high priority, but the doors are open to anybody in Kitsap. We're not huge, so so far we've had slow and steady growth, which is great. If we were inundated all at once, it probably wouldn't work so well, but you know, we served about 200 people last year. We're online to probably doubling that in 2025. That feels about right in terms of the rate of growth. Thanks for your interest.
Thank you. And that's 200 unique individuals?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, coming in an average of 9 times, and this year is going to be even more.
These are bad times.
They're bad times, yeah.
Thank you.
I
don't
will
know.
add, oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, I was just looking at the chat. There was only one question I saw. Do you offer peer support? And I think Kim, you answered that already. So
that one's important. Summer, please correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that to become a peer support specialist, you have to go through healthcare authority training. We couldn't offer peer support training, but what we do, and what I want to do more of, is have educational offerings at the center. There's so many unbelievable outreach workers, you know, folks that are looking to serve the same population that we're helping here in Paulsbo that, you know, are working so hard that they don't have the chance to network. They don't have the chance to like work on their own education. We've done one experiment at the Recovery Center, having some doctors come in from St. Michael's to talk about buprenorphine. I'd like to continue like offering networking events and educational events. Would love to have more peers at the center, would love to have more, you know, SUDPs, social workers, housing navigators, you know, all the amazing people in Kitsap County that are doing so much to serve our vulnerable populations. Like the more we can do for you all and make sure that your cup is full through education and networking, I think that would be terrific.
I'll just jump back in there and say that I love to give tours. So if anybody would ever like to stop by and see the space and see what we're doing, especially when cafes open, we would love that. I'm also looking for people that want to serve as cafe companions. So these people that, you know, work with this population often, that want to just spend time in the cafe. Also looking for kitchen volunteers that want to cook, or any organizations or businesses that want to like sponsor a meal a month or a meal quarterly, those types of things as we build out the cafe and get busier. So.
I
Anna has
see
a
a question. Yeah. How do we get people to detox? Yeah, that's a tough one. We have a wonderful support services staff. We have a couple of folks that are doing some intensive support services with our members, Vernalisa and Julia. We do have a car at the center, so we are available to help with some transportation. When we're sending folks to, you know, Tacoma or way out in Western Washington for detox, that becomes very difficult. I gave a shout out to G2G2 before. I'll do it again. So appreciative of that organization. They often are helping our members. We're trying to work with Kitsap Transit. We've got bus passes. you know, the philosophy of the center is like we'll do what it takes. So when somebody comes in, if they're ready to go to detox and transportation is a barrier, we have a staff that will just work to do what needs to be done to get folks to where they need to go. Yeah, I see that another comment about limitations with Kitsap detox. We're looking for more medical detoxes here, and I know that there's going to be staffing changes at the Kitsap detox as it already exists. There's a lot of questions that I have about what's happening at our detox. Those of us that are, you know, interested in this topic, I think we're all wise to be focusing on like, what does Kitsap need to be more effective in this area? Because it seems like we have a long way to go.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you presenting today. I know Madison connected you with us, Madison from Kitsap Homes of Compassion. And so, and it's nice to hear from Poulsbo as well. Like we hear a lot of Bremerton centric kind of presentations. So again, this is a good reminder for everyone that you're welcome to present on topics that you're interested in, or you have some information that you'd like to share with service providers. Please reach out to us. Thank you again to Kim and Summer. And I'm excited to tour the cafe as well. As from Bremerton Housing Authority perspective, I think there's a lot of opportunity there as well to take that model and maybe at one of our properties,
Great.
there's always like, what can you take from these models and like translate it to what we do, what works. And it's nice that you shared it with us. So thank you. It's loud in here. There's a little bit of commotion, but if you can hear me okay, I can transition to our next topic. All right, so I'm going to share a website as I normally do on our meetings. It's nice to remind everyone, for one, that we have a website, kitsap.hhc.org. And I wanted to share specifically that our award nominations, so we host an award ceremony every year, and our award nominations are open till Friday. And then we don't have a virtual meeting next month, but we have a ceremony that we're going to do at the Max Hale building in Bremerton. So first I'll show you where you, like, if you're not on our mailing list, let me show you that. And all of the information's been sent on the mailing list. If you're not on our mailing list, you can go on the middle of our website, it says mailing list, sign up. And I'll paste the link in the chat as well. See, here's the link to the mailing list if you want to share that or sign up. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to the website. And then on one of our newsletters that we've been sending recently, you'll see a link for the awards. So I'm going to pull this up. So if you go to our email archive, as you saw, I pushed archive. You can go to one of the emails from the last month. And then you should be able to see our, for one, save the date. We're going to be at Max Hale at the same time, third Wednesday, 2 p.m. at Max Hale. I'll put my email address in the chat as well if you want to RSVP. So if you click submit your nomination, I'll put this link in the chat. There's a link to the award nominations. Again, this is an award ceremony we do just to honor the work we do. So you can submit anybody, and I'll show you the 6 categories. So I'll chat this link over here. Okay, so again, it's for us to recognize others in the community or anybody we might work with. They don't have to be members to be nominated. So we have 6 awards. We have exceptional service by a staff member, innovative project or program, community impact, volunteer of the year award, elected official award, and the Sally Santana Lifetime Achievement Award. If you click on any of these links, it'll take you to the form. So each award has a separate form. There's no limit on nominations. Again, they don't have to be a member of our organization to be honored. And it just is just a good opportunity to share the great work everyone's doing. And then at our ceremony at Max Hale in Bremerton, we will give out the awards, have a few refreshments provided by Kitsap Community Resources, and just have a time to connect since we don't get together in person a lot. It's always a great time. I wanted to share, let me see if I can get to it. I want to just share some photos from last year. If I can. There they are. So here's some photos from last year. Again, this is a great time. Food, lots of presentations. This was at the Norm Dix building last year. And again, same third Wednesday, 2 p.m., same time as our regular May meeting, but it's going to be at the Max Hale building. Thank you to Katie Knudsen and Bridget Glasspool for hosting. And here's some, it was just a great time. So I just want to share this with everyone. It's a good reminder of what we do, and we do great work. So that was the awards ceremony. Any questions? And the awards. Still time to enter, so please do. Oh, and Roland says it says May 16th and not May 21st, so I will change it. That third Wednesday always gets me when I'm trying to do future dating. So I do appreciate anybody who, if you see some error on our newsletter, please let me know. I fix it right away. So I appreciate the coalition's QC. Let's see if I have any questions. Yep, and then I just put my email in the chat. So please RSVP if you plan to attend next month. We don't usually send calendar invites. So that's the hardest thing about when we switch from virtual to in-person, is just building in that time for travel and making sure we add it to our calendar. So it is May 21st, I'll put it here, at 2 p.m. at Max Hale in Brampton. And more information will go out with our mailing newsletter. Okay, May 21st. All right, and the last thing we always do is updates from the agencies. And while we do that, we'll have Kitsap County share any updates. Carl's here. Hi, Carl.
Hi, Katie. Good afternoon, everybody. The pig count is finalized. It says preliminary because Commerce hasn't actually put their stamp of approval on it yet. The numbers are done. We ended up with an increase on the pig count, where we had 297 unsheltered. That's up from 250. And there's various other statistics that are on that's available on our website. And I'll send that over to you, Katie. You can send it out with the next newsletter. We stayed basically the same as far as health and mental health as being the #1 issue for barriers for shelter. So that will influence things moving forward for that. Also for Housing and Homelessness Division, this is our 2-year grant cycle coming up. So look for RFPs to be coming out in May. We may know how much money we have before we send out the RFPs, or we may not, depending upon legislative issues and what Commerce does. So we will probably keep it around the same as last year. Hopefully we're hearing that it may be 20% decrease, but we're not sure where the legislature is going to land yet. So once we get those going, but those will be going out this year. Okay, thanks, Katie.
Thank you, Carl. I just put in the chat, if anyone has any agency updates, you can raise your hand and we can call on you, or you can add to the chat and we can share with the group. We have about 39 people here right now, and it's always a great opportunity to share anything that you need to get out there to other service providers. Roland, I like that you always like to start us off. I appreciate it.
Sure. So I just got 2 quick items. #1 from we had a earthquake preparedness for West Bremerton kickoff back on April Fool's Day at Olympic College. Follow-up meeting for those interested in actually planning the formation of a resiliency hub in West Bremerton. It's going to be next Tuesday, the 22nd, also at Olympic College at 3 p.m. And then looking further down the road, we're going to have a personal preparedness class open to anyone, also at Olympic College. That will be on the 29th of May at 6:30, and I'll hope to get flyers for the 29th class out so you can publish later on. Any questions, you can yell at me.
Thank you, Roland. Sherry. Oh wait, Sherry, it looks like you had an attachment. Oh yeah. Do you want to share anything on your event, Sherry?
Oh, yes. So we have, I just want to let everyone know we have another event coming up in our speaker series in May that we'd love to see you at. It is free to attend and it'll be at the Bainbridge Island Art Museum.
And you can see Sherry's attachment in the chat. We don't have any other updates today. Again, appreciate you all and your commitment to our coalition and each other. I look forward to seeing you all in person next month. Bye, everyone.